I can spirit moving in me. 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 I feel abundance 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 moving in me. I feel spirit 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 moving in me.
Wonderful, thank you. And excuse me. So, welcome everyone, and I'm going to cough again. Excuse me. Good morning, I'm Reverend Trishall, and it is my privilege and my pleasure to be community spiritual leader of the most absolutely awesome congregation in the entire universe. And that's here, that's on Zoom later, or most weeks, and that's on Facebook and YouTube later. So, thank you all for being with us, and we are growing, thriving center serving people of all ages, all sizes, shapes. Everyone is included here. So all are welcome. Everyone is invited to be you with us, celebrating your divine uniqueness. So we provide spiritual tools so that each person can live into and be their full radiant self. And we are opening to expanding to our new location, and so I am going to be reading a declaration that we came up with, and that is, I declare the perfect unfoldment of our center, the Center for Spiritual Living Metro. It is radiantly prosperous in every aspect and expression of spiritual community, love, growth, abundance, and overflowing good. I claim and embrace joyous and loving community members who simply, by their presence, are raising the consciousness of the greater Washington, D.C. metro area. I know that this expansive energy and consciousness ripple out to all of humanity. Our center is abundantly blessed with every unfolding prosperity that supports all its activities, community programs, and beyond. I now declare and call forth our right and perfect new church home, right here and right now. I say yes to my own prosperity, and right here, right now, I say yes to the prosperity, love, growth, and expansion, abundance, and overflowing good of our center, the Center for Spiritual Living Metro. And so it is.
So it is.
Okay.
Try to just let go, to live like in the flow, avoiding all adversity. So today I say, without hesitation, I'm looking ahead, with my eyes wide open, with my eyes wide open. Some people live in pain, projecting out with blame. Their eyes closed down, they do not see. I'm praying every day, affirming love, not hate, acknowledging God's timeless So today I say, without hesitation, here we go. I'm looking ahead with my eyes wide open, with my eyes wide open, with my heart wide open. I'm looking ahead with my eyes wide open, with my mind wide open, with my heart wide open. I feel myself peace and simply turn you on. I feel myself alone. I recognize the worth of everyone on earth, of every single soul. Together we are one. Together we can see. We're looking ahead with our eyes wide open, with our minds wide open, with our hearts wide open. We're looking ahead with our eyes wide open, with our minds wide open, with our hearts wide open. Last time. We're looking ahead with our eyes wide open, with our minds wide open, with our hearts wide open.
Oh, so today we're going to be talking about curiosity. And we're also going to be talking about how curiosity shows up, motivates, what's underneath it, all these different aspects of curiosity. And so I'm going to start off with February is Black History Month. And I picked for our honoree today a lovely woman named Bessie Coleman. Anybody recognize Bessie? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Bessie was born and raised in Texas. Her mother was African American and her father was African and Native American. And so she was multicultural before she started out. And after hearing her brother's wartime tales of women in France being allowed to fly airplanes, her interest in becoming a pilot was really piqued. Now here she was demonstrating curiosity. She learned about, she had this urge to do something really different. And she took that curiosity to learn about not only what her brothers were telling her about the women being allowed to fly in France, but she took that curiosity and went far beyond it. As no woman who was also Black and Native could enter the flying school in the U.S. Doesn't surprise you, does it? Okay, so she committed to learning to speak French fluently enough to pass the exam, write out her application, pass the exam in French, and she went to France and got licensed as a pilot, woman pilot, so she was internationally, so far as anybody can determine, the first Black woman, the first Native American woman to be fully licensed and licensed internationally, because her French license carried, even though the U.S. would not acknowledge or allow her to have gone through training in her own home country. So this super person had taken her curiosity, allowed it to motivate her to step out beyond what people said, oh, no, you can't do that. And from everything I read about her, that was sort of like, oh, those are the perfect words. You say I can't, like, bar, you might as well unbar the doors because I'm going to come through, barred or not. So last she did die in a plane crash. But Her legacy has gone on and on and on and set a standard that's for other people, not other women, not just black women, to say, hey, if the rule says no, ask why and then work around it.
That's good.
Yeah. And so she definitely is a great honoree for our month celebrating African history. So, one of the biggest questions about curiosity is what is underneath it. And so often we just think, oh, well, it's because there's some, like the seal, shiny object, and yes, there's that level, but there's a whole lot going on underneath, and I'd rather focus on what's going on underneath, because when babies are born, they're curious. They are curious about their world, they're curious about the flavor of their own toes, they're curious about anything and everything. That my family had pictures and a whole big story about. I was one of the best babies that ever came along, because all they had to do was put me on the window seat. It was an old house that had a window seat, and there were trees outside, and there were birds and chipmunks and other life in the trees. And I could be left there for hours because I'd be just doing this all the time, looking and watching, and the leaves moving, and the shadows, and everything else going on, because that's how babies arrive. They arrive being curious, adventurous. They have an innate compulsion to learn. They want to learn everything, and the speed of their learning is amazing. And then these well-meaning adults come along. And these well-meaning adults, in wanting to protect their infant, start instilling limits, fears. You can't do that because that would happen. And if they don't, simply scare the child into not doing, they have imprinted the child with a certain level of fear. And so I want to tell you about the fearlessness of a certain little blonde girl, who at the time was probably 18 months old. And we had a couple of giant fruit trees in the backyard. There was a giant, like really big apricot tree. And I loved apricots. That's just a side note. Okay, and there was a picking ladder. If you haven't been around areas that have fruit trees, a picking ladder is sort of like a fireman's extension ladder. You put it on something and then you cable it on up and it extends. Well, I was only about that high probably, and so I decided I was going to go get an apricot. I was going to go up the ladder, and I did, all the way to the top rung. Well, if you think about baby shapes and where the center of gravity is, and I managed to have the tummy on the one side and the legs on the other. So here is this infant, probably 20 feet in the air. And so my brother, who probably, considering our relationship and his aiding in most of my troubles, that one apparently did bother him, because he went running to my mother and said, "You ought to see what she's doing." And so anyway, my mother went out, looked, where's the kid? And he's going this way. She looks up. Okay, now there's something that you need to know. With every step up that ladder, my mother had an almost paralyzing fear of heights.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so you gotta think mother love had to be what was making one foot go after the other. And she got up and the story is, of course, I'm not reporting personally. Okay, the story is she grabbed an ankle, at which point I turned, which of course set the whole thing off balance, and she was really within nth of dropping me because I spun and the belly and the legs were all on the same side of it. So anyway, she grabbed her kid around this way and went all the way to the bottom of the ladder and just kept going, so that she ended up sitting on the ground. Absolutely. Yeah, she had survived this whole thing. Okay, well, curiosity shows up in little people. And fortunately, I didn't get all of the fears that would have been instilled that day if my mother could have possibly injected me with some sort of "don't ever do that again." It would have happened. So, curiosity is what motivates us. And alas, we see all the time where curiosity has been kind of shut down for various reasons. But curiosity actually is totally intertwined in our survival, because we are curious about how to make it through the day. We may not even think of it in that way, but it's curiosity that causes us to persevere. Like with Bunny and, post-stroke, okay, then it's curiosity that says, how can I get around this? How can I do this in spite of the people that say I can't do that? I don't have to buy into anybody's I can't do. Instead, let that curiosity unveil possibilities. And so it pulls us to learn about our world, it pulls us to learn about our bodies, it pulls us to learn about how to make it through the day. And curiosity truly is our superpower, because when fatigue hits, curiosity can pull us out of fatigue and get us back on track. When challenge and curiosity about how can I resolve this has been the basis for all the inventions that ever have been brought forward. Curiosity has made it so that, okay, this looks like a dead end. I'm not okay with a dead end. I know that there's got to be a way around. I know that there has to be a solution. And that's coming from inside us. That's a divine quality. That's way beyond just, I ask why, what, I won't accept, I won't do. That's way beyond that. Because people have been, there are stories all over the place about people who have been in life-threatening circumstance. And it was curiosity that made them search for the resolve, for the resolution. And so it's the trigger for a sort of must-know mentality. And so part of what shuts down some of our curiosity is conditioning. Now that conditioning, some of it is from those well-meaning people who want to protect us. I mean, it's well-meaning. However, they can shut down our inspiration, our curiosity, our willingness to take risks. And also, there are circumstances. I remember as a little kid in my grandma's house, and she had a wood-burning stove, not a heating stove, but a stove. And I, of course, as a little kid, had to test it. Is the oven on? Oh, yeah, it was. And the burn, the ouch. I learned you don't test with your whole hand on the side of a hot stove. You just sort of check for the radiance of it and ask a question, or look for, is there a fire in the stove? If so, probably not a good idea. And so when we fall down, go boom, and get cuts and bruises and scrapes and scratches, yes, those are part of the learning process. We learn, for instance, learning to balance on one foot. You learn by testing, and if you wobble too much, you'll fall over. And so this is all about curiosity, stimulating the investigation, and then the investigation reveals something more that then you can be curious about and go on and reveal even more. And so our thoughts and feelings and ideas and hopes and all the scary stories we've ever been told and all the circumstances that we've ever been in, we can let them dominate us, or we can invite them to enlighten us. All right. So if you've had a situation that was scary or painful, you can say, shut down, never again, I'm gonna hide. Or you can say, hey, I learned from that, and I know there's still a way to work it. And that curiosity about, hey, there's still a way to work it, that's what shifts our relationship with the circumstance, with what has happened in our lives. And by shifting our relationship to those experiences, it opens us even further, because then we start going out into that risk-taking. And not crazy risk-taking. I'm not suggesting that anybody test gravity by stepping off a building or anything else. But I am suggesting that when we take in what's going on and are willing to, in faith, to lean out and give it a go. Now, that doesn't always work, and today seems to be the day I'm talking about my childhood. And so, probably because it's such great material, especially on this sort of subject, because one of the characteristics that I developed with a brother who was, anyway, my brother, some brothers are the stereotypical big brother protector, okay, not mine. Okay, and so, no, those were not attributes that ever showed up in that person. So, being somewhat of a tomboy and being just totally insatiably curious, which I still am. Okay, so insatiably curious, and the big thick boys were going off to do whatever. I, with being considerably shorter, always did my best to tag along. And I love to go inspecting things, like down holes, not good. Going out on, when they were climbing across a landslide area, and of course they had gone ahead, and I got all the way out there fascinated with all the rocks and everything else, and there came a point where I started to slide. And I stopped. But the moment that I stopped, I wasn't going to move again. Because fear had taken over and overwhelmed my curiosity. So that instead of being the tag along that was totally, so there I sat. Kind of like on the top of a ladder. I knew I wasn't sliding where I was. And so again, my brother had, instead of coming back or reaching back and saying, hey, come on, he just went on ahead. And so when he realized that I was not going to move, and this got into a case of stubbornness, okay, he went and got my dad. He knew my mom wouldn't, not with her fear of heights. So my father had to come after me, and then I discovered, get back into curiosity, that by following his actual footprints, and he made it so that he kind of settled each step, so then I had a step to step on. And so then I was successful in getting on across the slide. And so curiosity can be stifled by fright. It can be empowered by more curiosity. It can be empowered by somebody else setting a path. Somebody else being willing to, okay, I'm out here with you, and you don't need to take my hand. I'm not here to rescue you. I am here to help you out of the situation you're in. And so he made footprints in the gravel so that I could step from my footprint to his footprint and walk myself out of there. So then you look at it and you look at an event that could have scarred me and shut me down in fright. And instead, it empowered me to see that there's a way to take that curiosity and follow possible steps, stair steps, footprints, so that I was able to get myself out of there. Totally different experience than it could have been. And so we are here to help and support one another's curiosity. That when somebody comes up with a, quote, crackpot idea, instead of saying, you gotta be out of your mind, what's that? We say, wow, and how's that gonna work? What are your plans? And we can be encouraging of other people and support the blossoming of their curiosity. So when we support one another's blossoming of our curiosity, then we come to a place where when our desire to know more becomes stronger than the fear of the unknown, we are compelled to find a way. We can lean into our conviction that the universe is for us, lean into our faith, and allow our fear to be transformed into excitement. So if you think about the little girl that was out there on the gravel slide, and think about the excitement of being able to get to the far side, that nobody came and carried her off, nobody did it for her, but instead facilitated a way so that she could get past the fear and then celebrate the excitement of having done it. The little kid that got to the far side and had conquered it. And I know somebody else that got to the top of a hill and conquered it. Yes. And so when those moments of fulfillment, and we can be there for one another. And as we grow and celebrate one another's excitement and curiosity, then we get to do that synergy. Makes it possible for each of us to find more, do more, achieve more, celebrate more, and we have company in the celebration. So as we grow and look at that leaning, as we in our teaching, we know that God is for us. We know that, quote, God is on our side, God's got it handled. All these different ways that we say it. But the first step, according to Dr. Holmes, the first step in overcoming any fear, that was wrong, I'll start that one over, it isn't any faith, no. Okay, try this one. Okay, the first step in overcoming any fear is to conceive that God is for us. This done, we have at once overcome the fear of seeing that there is nothing to be afraid of. The world is all right, and we can meet it head on. And so whatever is going on, when we come from that place of knowing that God is for us, that the universe is conspiring for our good, all these different things that we remember, then we lean in faith and not take what are called foolish or stupid risks, but we take risks knowing that we have to experiment. It's the experimentation. And whether you call it a risk, okay, you have to experiment, you have to risk maybe being wrong. But when you experiment, that's how you find more ways to find the right answer. So, let's see. One of the things to also remember is the curiosity that may have gotten us into trouble, the curiosity that got me out on that landslide, on that slope, on that slide. Okay, but curiosity can be applied to any situation that you find yourself in, because it's curiosity that drives you to the solution. So curiosity may get you in a pickle, but it's also the means for getting you out of it. So Brene Brown describes faith as a place of mystery where we find the courage to believe in what we cannot see and the strength to let go of our fear of uncertainty. And I want to close with a question from Michael Singer. It's a beautiful question. It's the sort of question you can ask yourself in all different circumstances. Are you willing to let go of yourself so you can be who you really are? Because your little self may very well be packing fears and hesitancy. And so let's just drop into prayer for a moment. And knowing that there is only one creative source that has sprung forth of itself into and as all of creation, and I choose to call that God, but you can call it by any name that is appropriate for you and your heart, because the name is only a human name. God is bigger than any name and all the names. That one creator is beyond our vocabulary. And so as it has sprung forth of itself into and as all creation, I know that I am one with that. I'm part of that creation. Just as each and every person here and on Facebook and across the world, everyone that is ever watching this, and everyone everywhere. It's all of us, all of it is part of creation. And so it is from a place of oneness that I speak my word, empowering each and every one of us to nurture curiosity. If you get a if you get a why, if you get a what, if you get any sort of question, let your curiosity flow, chase it, play with it, celebrate it. For it is spirit in us, as us, that is that source of curiosity. And so be joyous in your celebration of spirit as you. For me, gratitude arises. For me, knowing this, that I am alive as spirit, is a constant source of gratitude. Overflowing gratitude, spilling out, and touching and transforming others. So, at this point, it is only needing to be released into the world. And so it is.
So it is.
More music.